So let's think a little bit about what college does do. Does it transfer skills? I think that's the typical perception that college is there to teach you something, that you're supposed to walk out with your degree at the end of the 4 years or however long the program is, and you're supposed to have some more knowledge in your head than you had when you started, and therefore be a better rounded person, or a person who has more skills that are applicable in the workforce, or whatever it is that you were seeking when you went in the door. You came out with more knowledge, and you came out with a better understanding of the society around you than you had when you went in. Or is it possible that college is simply a signal apparatus, that it's a way of communicating to a potential future employer that you are a person who works hard, you're a person who has the ability to think at a different level, you're a person who can engage in a 4-year-long project and complete that project? Is that what you're communicating when you get a degree? And there's been some recent work, most notably I think by Brian Kaplan, on that idea. And then third, perhaps it's just a consumption good. I mean, we've all heard of party schools, but perhaps colleges and universities in general are turning into a kind of a party environment for young people to sort of stretch out their dependency on their parents a little longer, maybe get some government subsidized fun out of the experience. So that's certainly a possibility as well, that maybe if you've got enough money to go to college, then you enjoy that 4 years to sort of socialize, and you can maybe take some classes that seem like they might be somewhat interesting to you, but not necessarily classes that would generate a wider range of opportunities once you graduate. Now, we have seen that there is a connection between the amount of education a person receives and the income that that person will have later in life. And maybe that's immediate, and maybe that takes some time to sort of manifest in a person's income or their job prospects. But what we see is that for the highest brackets of income here, $100,000 and up, it is much more likely that people in that income range will have a college degree than that you would be in that income range and not have a college degree. There are very, very few people, as you can see here, who are making this kind of income who have only a high school diploma. And so this is sort of the exhibit A for saying this is why you need to go to college. If you want to have a high income after you, by the time you're in your 30s or 40s, then you need to go to college in order to get that higher income. And so people with lower incomes on the left-hand end of the diagram here, interestingly, we see some people that have college degrees that are in that low income category, and yet people who stop after high school and don't get any college education at all are much more likely to be in that income category. So also you can see this is a chart from Richard Vedder's book, which I'll be referring to at several points today. A brand new book called Restoring the Promise, which I recommend. It's Richard Vedder's been working in this area for a long time and has some interesting things to say about the problems with higher education. So this is a chart from his book, and you can see here that, and this is divided by male, female, and then median and mean. So let's just look at mean workers over 25, male, and you can see high school diploma, about $47,000. And then if you go to professional degree, that'd be like a law degree or something, that would be about $161,000. People with a bachelor's degree, about $85,000. So it does look fairly clear from this that if you're over 25, you can expect, male or female, you can expect to see a pretty big income jump because of a 4-year degree. So this is what you would see from perhaps a high school guidance counselor or somebody who says, well, you need to go to college because, see, you can earn more money. Well, there's some problems with this. Vedder points out, for instance, that one of the problems here is that this is aggregating the entire U.S. population. Over 25 includes people who are quite a bit older than 25 and who went through the higher education process back in the 50s or 60s. And these are individuals who may have gone through their four-year program back before the sort of higher education bubble that we may be in the middle of today. They may have gone to college back when having a college degree really did set you apart from the general population in a significant way. But what about people who are just out of college? Is it possible that this group also would see this kind of major income disparity, that they would see a big jump in their income potential after completing 4 years of college? One more slide, sort of the guidance counselor type of slide here, and that's this one. You can see this is college compared to alternative investments, again looking at kind of an aggregate of all of the college graduates and what kind of rate of return did they get on their college investment. And so having an associate's or bachelor's degree has a pretty high rate of return compared to, say, the stock market or high quality corporate bonds or gold or long-term T-bills or housing. So it looks like this is just a no-brainer. Of course you should go to college, but again, it's not quite that simple. Here's another chart from Vedder's book, and Vedder is pointing out here that college education is actually not providing what we think it is for younger people particularly. This is the education requirement of occupations held by college graduates. Now, what we do see here is about half of college graduates are in a position that requires a college degree. Okay? But then we see that over a third of college graduates are in a position that requires a high school diploma or less. A high school dropout could get that job, and yet we've got someone with a 4-year degree in the job. Why is this? And then we've got people who, about 11% here, who have more than a high school diploma but have less than a bachelor's degree, and yet they've got the full-blown 4-year degree. So what's happening here? And part of this is that you've got, let's say you've got a coffee shop, and you own a coffee shop and you're trying to hire workers, and you have a position for a barista in your coffee shop, and you have 30 applications for your barista position. And you think, well, how am I going to sort out the 30 applications here? I got to have some way to round file some of these and sort of cut out the chaff before I get to a top 5 or so. So what will I do? Well, an easy way to handle this is to just find whoever's got less education and formal education and drop them from the applicant pool. So you say, well, okay, I've got 12 applicants here for this position who have college degrees. That usually indicates that they're pretty well-motivated people. They'll be my first pick, and I'll just narrow the pool to those 12. There's nothing about being a coffee mixer, barista, whatever, that requires a 4-year college degree in sociology or something. So nevertheless, that might end up being one of the margins on which the employer decides to sort their applicants. So we end up with people who have 4-year degrees that are working in jobs that very clearly don't need those degrees. And in fact, people may figure out that even if they want nothing more than a coffee barista level kind of job, their opportunities for getting such jobs are better if they have a college degree. And if government or other parties are subsidizing the attainment of that 4-year degree, and if the 4 years that they spend in college is a fun time anyway, then why not spend a little extra time in college? Other people may be paying the bill. The experience is entertaining to some degree, so just enjoy your time and then go out and get a job that, yeah, maybe you didn't really need the knowledge you might have gained in college anyway before you got that job. So here's another chart from Vedder. This is jobs requiring a college degree versus the number of college graduates. Note the significant disparity between the two categories here. We've got jobs requiring a college degree, about 29 million of these jobs, and then we've got about 42 million employed college graduates. So again, we've got people filling jobs that don't require that level of education. This, I thought, was one of the more interesting charts in his book, and then we'll move on to some things from Brian Kaplan and others. But this is from 1970 to 2010. Taxi drivers, shipping and receiving clerks, salesmen and sales clerks, firefighters, carpenters, and bank tellers, people that require, in order to do their job and do it very, very well, they may need only a high school diploma, or maybe less. And yet, in the period of time, 4 decades, from 1970 to 2010, we've seen the percentage of taxi drivers and chauffeurs who have a bachelor's degree or more, not a 2-year degree, but a 4-year degree, has soared from around 1 or 2% in 1970 to over 15% in 2010. Salesmen and sales clerks from about 4 or 5% in 1970 to nearly a fourth of these individuals who have bachelor's degrees today. Has the job changed in that amount of time that you really need to have that kind of education in order to do those jobs well? I'd suggest not. Carpenters, firefighters, bank tellers, similar kinds of stories to tell there. So we seem to be over-educating for the kinds of jobs that people are getting when they graduate. Now, I mentioned the signaling hypothesis here. This predates Brian Kaplan's work, but he's got a recent book out on this in which he sort of elaborates on this idea that higher education is not so much the conveyance of knowledge as it is a sorting process, a filtering process. So let's say you've got a population here and you've got two kinds of people. You've got highly motivated, intelligent, hardworking kinds of people, and you've got people who are not so highly motivated, intelligent, or hardworking. And the blues here are the highly motivated, hardworking, intelligent, and the reds are the others. So if that's the general population, then maybe you have some of that population that ends up going to this filter we call college. And if the filter is doing what we expect the filter to do in a signaling, under the signaling hypothesis, then those who are not so highly motivated or intelligent or hardworking end up failing or dropping out, and they end up in this box here with people who are unmotivated, undisciplined, and unintelligent. And you've got others who simply say, well, I'm not going to go to college at all. Maybe I'm hardworking, but I'm just going to go apply my hard work to some business that does not expect me to have a degree, and that puts them also in this box. They're uncertified, motivated, persevering, and intelligent people. Okay? And then the filter passes some people through, and these are certified, motivated, hardworking, intelligent people. All right, so that means if you've got a 4-year degree, you have certified yourself and you've communicated something, signaled something to a potential employer that says, hey, I'm hardworking. How do you know I'm hardworking? Well, I did this 4-year project here. And it may not matter whether I did this in electrical engineering or civil engineering or mathematics or physics, but any of those programs require someone to be persevering and hardworking. So there you have it. My GPA is 3.6 or something, and so therefore I have evidence that I'm that sort of person. Talk is cheap, but this 4-year project sorts out those who are just saying that they're hardworking and those that are genuinely of that nature. Well, what does government subsidization do to this kind of process? So when the government, especially after World War II, or I guess it was actually technically in 1944, right before the end of World War II, when the GI Bill was passed, we had government subsidization entering higher education in a big way, and that's continued. So now we have taxes being extracted from the population and used to subsidize those within the population who would like to go through this filtering process. The filters don't remain unchanged. If you're a college or university and you've got all this, people suddenly coming to you with piles of money because they've been made eligible for some kind of government subsidy or a Pell Grant or whatever, then if you're a college or university, you're inclined to open your doors a little wider to make it more possible for these people who are offering wads of money to you to go through your filter process. And the incentives are there for you to accept more students. Then the filter may end up still failing some students who end up in this box as before, but it probably passes more as well. It passes students who otherwise may not have made it through the process. And Vedder also goes through some of this in some detail, that colleges have seen a change in their threshold for passing students, that they're willing to pass students through that previously would not have made it, wouldn't even made it to college in the first place, wouldn't have been accepted, and now they're not only accepted but make it through, and perhaps make it through with what looks like a very good GPA. So we end up with people who are being certified as motivated, persevering, and intelligent who are in fact not. You see a couple of the red dots made it through the filter now because the college has effectively lowered its standards in order to collect more of this largesse from the taxpayer that's funneled through these various kinds of government programs. Brian Kaplan says, once workers have been ranked, giving everyone extra years of education is socially wasteful. Furthermore, since the status quo is supported by hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies, we're probably underusing alternative certification methods like apprenticeships, testing, boot camps, and so on. I would love to know, I don't actually have data on this, how many of the graduates of Mises University put this on their resume and get a boost in their job opportunities because they've been certified as having gone through this kind of process, or what happens if you take the Mundlik, I need my water, Mundlik, somebody say that. Thank you, yes. Thank you. Apparently it's easier for Lithuanian tongues, right? So good. The test, yes. So, so I'd be interested to know if that produces a measurable boost to your opportunities after you take the test, and if that is something that may grow in importance, people seeking out some alternative to higher education. Still can't say it. Mündliche Prüfung. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. I'd said it before. I knew I could say it again. All right. Signaling explains, Kaplan says, why students are far more concerned about grades than actual learning. They want easy A's, not professors who teach a lot of job skills. Signaling explains also why cheating pays. A successful cheater profits by impersonating a good student. And signaling explains why students readily forget course material on the day after the final exam. I know that never happens to any of you, right? Once you've got the good signal on your transcript, you can usually safely forget whatever you've learned. So Kaplan's arguing that higher education has become kind of an arms race, that the thing is not so much how much knowledge you've collected, but whether you've collected more than the other guy, or at least have a signal that looks like you've collected more knowledge than the other guy.